Okay. Good morning, Mr. Alexius. Good
Hey,
afternoon, sorry. Yeah.
good
Thanks
afternoon.
for being available for this short presentation. Today,
Okay,
I will present regarding the evaluation that I've made with regards to your risk assessment metrics. Okay. So just for the purpose of this presentation, you are the head of the lab for SIRIM Sarawak branch, correct?
yes, I'm the head for civil
Yeah.
and
Okay.
construction lab lah.
Okay. All right. So we'll proceed. Okay. First of all, I will talk about what is hazard identification. Okay. So basically, it's a process to identify the potential source of harm, danger in the workplace or in any other settings. It involves systematic process of identifying all the work activities, hazards, and all the possible consequences of these hazards. Okay. And another crucial part besides hazard identification is the risk assessment itself. Risk assessment is the process of evaluating the potential hazards and the risks associated with it, and to determine the likelihood and consequence of harm or damage that it may cause. Common methods that are usually used are qualitative and quantitative risk assessment, fault tree analysis, and hazard and opportunity study. Okay, so these past few weeks, I have gone through the documents provided by your organization with regards to the hazard identification method and risk assessment. So, based on the documents that I received, I found that SIRIM QS is using the hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control method to identify the hazards in the workplace. This is also evident based on the document procedure titled Action to Address Risks and Opportunities, and it is clearly addressed in under clause 5.11 of the same document. Okay, so this is an example of the hierarchy that was given to me for evaluation. So this is with regards to the inspection and verification work at the port and at the factory and warehouse. So as you can see, you have the first column is the hazard identification, whereby you can see it covers the work activities, the hazards that is exposed to the workers during the conducting of the activities, and the consequences. Okay, so is a crucial main part for hazard identification itself. Okay, after studying the documents, the procedure documents, the hierarchy, I have identified a few weaknesses in these procedures. Okay, one of it is that the hazard identification process in the procedure itself is not detailed. It does not describe the steps that should be taken when conducting the hazard identification at the workplace. It merely states that the safety department for the HQ office will assist the respective heads of regional office of the subsidiaries to conduct the hazard identification work. This is stated in the clause 5.11 of the action to address risks and opportunities procedure. Okay, as we can see here, it's under 5.11 hazard identification states here, all hazards associated with work activities of SIRIM QS shall be identified using hierarchy form. This hazard can be physical, chemical, biological, psychological, mechanical, and electrical, or based on kinetic. But it doesn't clearly state here, like how do they identify it, how they arrange all the work processes in order to identify this type of hazards. So from this document itself, the only clause that is talking about hazard identification is only this particular clause, which is 5.11. And in my opinion, it's very brief. So what I will recommend, a systematic procedure should be included under an extra clause under this procedure, which will explain in detail how to prepare hazard map. Hazard map is basically just by using a simple table to identify all the work activities that is being conducted by the organization and its frequencies. This information will is extracted from work instructions, documents, or your work procedures. Okay, so from these work procedures, we will know like the exact work activities involved for each work. From here, we can identify the possible hazards and then expand it to include what are the possible consequences that the workers may face during the conduct of this work activity. So this is the example of the table that may be used. Perhaps this should be included in the document itself, which the title address risk and opportunities under clause 5.11. So here you can see the first column, you need to describe the activity during the conducting of the particular work. For example, testing, what activity you have to do. For example, take the sample first, and maybe you need to grind it or what, and then from there you need to identify type of hazards that is associated with it. For example, physical or chemical, and then from there we and so on we can identify the possible consequences. Okay, and then all this information that we have obtained by referring to the work instruction or work procedure of this activity can be inserted inside the hazard identification form under the column hazard identification, which I have highlighted here. So in my opinion, this should be the procedures that should be included in the documents, the title, risks and opportunities, to ensure that the procedure can be followed by anyone. Just by reading the procedure, anyone who has experience with the works can conduct their own hazard identification activity. Okay, another issue that I found is that the internal and external issues are not clearly defined. Okay. The organization, as per the OSH manual, has prepared an OSH register table, which is used to determine the internal and external issues affecting OSH performance. However, after going through the table, I found that one important factor is missing, which is internal process practice. And this is actually essential in order to determine the risks and issues associated with existing work procedures. As per clause 6.1, the actions to address risks and opportunities of ISO 45001 2018, it is important for the organization to clearly identify internal and external issues together with the needs and expectation of workers and other interested parties. So what I would recommend to remedy the situation is the organization should include the internal process and practice factors in this internal and external issues analysis. As stated in clause 6.1.2.1 of hazard identification under point F of ISO 45000:2018 standard, processes at the work area shall be taken into account during the process of hazard identification. Hence, why it is important to include it as one of the factors in the organization OSH risk register document. Okay, so this is example of table that your organization can use. So basically, it's more organized. And then I have highlighted the internal process practice that can be included in the internal risk. Okay, that is all about the hazard identification just now, the methods that are being used by the organization, and the weaknesses that I found. Okay, now we go to the methods of risk assessment. Based on the documents that I received from your side, which is the risk assessment table, a mix of qualitative and quantitative risk analysis method was applied because there's a mixture of words to describe the severity, likelihood, and numerical weightage being assigned to this likelihood and severity in order to attain the final risk score, which is categorized into 6 levels in the risk level table. Okay, as you can see, You have the qualitative risk table, and then you have the risk level table. Okay. From here, we can see, like, for example, if the consequences is C4 very high and the likelihood is very high L4, then you get a high risk level. And then to get the numerical function, you times 4 to get 16. So from here, if you refer to the risk level, it will categorize under high, intolerable, which means that the work shall not be continued at all until the risk is reduced. So I have identified a few weaknesses as well under this risk assessment documents. So one of it is that for the description of the likelihood and severity and the consequences. Okay. So from what I see, especially we look at L1 and L2, the likelihood indicators, the meaning is, there's an overlap in the meaning. It's not clear cut. See? So the risk assessor might get confused when choosing the more appropriate likelihood indicator. For example, if an accident never happened in SIRIM before, and the assessor has a limited knowledge to confirm whether such accident ever happened in under another similar type of organization, he might find difficulty to choose which one, L2 or L1. So as you can see in the Venn diagram here, the similarities is, see, never happened. So if it never happened in SIRIM Berhad, he can either choose L1 or L2. This is very subjective depending on the knowledge that person have in the industry. Okay. So another one is the consequences severity table on the risk assessment table. It also shows that the description of the injuries for C3 and C4 have slightly some similar meaning. Okay, what I mean is this. If we look at the C3 major, the injuries, major serious injuries or illness or chronic or acute effect due to inhalation, exposure, or amputations, or major fractures or poisonings. And then if we look at C4, fatality or permanent disability or occupational cancer or other severely life-threatening disease or acute fatal disease. So you can take the meaning of permanent disability from C4 and amputations from C3 as the same meaning, because basically when you undergo amputations, you are a disabled person already. Although, for example, if you lose a few of your fingers, you are considered a permanent disability. And then same also with the wording chronic or acute effect due to inhalation. It can have a meaning on having cancer as well, because there's a possibility of getting occupational cancer, acute occupational cancer, when are exposed to higher levels of carcinogen. Okay. So recommendations to solve this issue of description from these two tables is very simple. So based on New Zealand standard for risk management, we can ensure that the description of a more severe situation needs to be clear and should not leave any room for ambiguity and no confusion when selecting the appropriate indicator value. For example, you can see here uh, for the level of likelihood, number 1 is rare, almost never, and then 2, unlikely, rarely happening. So it's very easy to distinguish. Never, the first one is never happened. Second is rarely happening, but it has happened before. So when a risk assessor is being given this type of description, it will be easier for them to choose the correct uh, numerical indicator. Okay, and the same one goes to the severity. You can see here, you have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we look at catastrophic and major. So catastrophic is simply described as severe injury for more than one person. As long as you have injury, it's catastrophic. And major, it does not involve any injury, but only financial loss. So this one does not leave any room for ambiguity. So if you have like any injury, disability, or acute chronic cancer, it has to be under catastrophic based on this table. Okay, that should be it for my presentation today. So do you have any questions, Mr. Alexius? Hello? I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. This one,
Okay, it's okay.
I want to ask regarding the conclusion just now.
Okay, for which part?
Hmm, number 16. Uh,
This one.
in
This one.
conclusion for the risk hazard.
For hazard identification.
Yeah.
So this is the recommendation.
Oh, this one to mean to say for the include preparation of hazard map. Is it meaning to say to come out with process flow or flow chart?
Yes, you can use flowchart if it helps you to map out the hazards. Okay, so as I mentioned during the presentation just now, you can just use this simple table for starter. First of all, you need to select one type of work. For example, in your case, you have inspection at the port, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so inspection at port involves what type of activities? So based on your hierarchy, I saw that involves meeting clients, exposure to clients. So with all this COVID-19, there's a biological hazard with it. So these activities need to be listed down as per the work instruction of that particular work itself. For example, you go to the port, what do? You go enter the security, show your ID, and then when you arrive there, what do? You need to wear your PPE, your boots, and then need to open the container. Let the container open for a few minutes. To let out of the hazardous vapors inside the container. And then what do you do when you enter the container? When you should not enter the container, because
You mean the process
there
flow lah, step by step
yes,
activity.
yes, yes.
And
So
then the type of hazard, it must be how to say, the type of hazard have to be more than one lah. We have to identify more than one lah. Is it that way?
if it's only one, it depends. Doesn't mean that the work activity must have more than one hazard. Maybe it only have physical hazard. For example, when you go to the port, when you try to enter the container itself, so maybe you have a risk of trip or fall inside the container. So that one is under a physical hazard lah. So from here, if you we can put under description activity entering the container, and then we can put a type of hazard as physical,
Physical
and then
hazard. Oh, okay.
possible consequences, and then we list down, and then
Mm,
all this the activity that we have list down, we can input it inside the hierarchy lah, hierarchy form that
okay.
your organization have already prepared lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
Yeah,
that's
the
all.
hierarchy form is okay. It's just that the procedure is not clearly documented. Clearly documented or explained inside the procedure, which leaves, uh, for example, the regional office to have difficulties and in identifying the hazards correctly lah. Yeah.
Mm, okay.
Okay. Any
Okay.
further questions, Mr. Alexius?
Think no more. So far, okay and good. and then the content is very useful for our future use in reference. So
Okay.
that's all. I think. Thank you, Mr. John, for the
Okay.
good briefing for the presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're welcome. I shall provide your site with the presentation slides and the report for your current reference as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and if any
sure.
time your organization have any questions to ask about hazard education or risk assessment, you can contact me anytime. No problem.
Yeah. Okay, sure. I will contact you if I got more inquiry lah, especially on the hazard lah itself. Yeah, on the
Okay.
risk assessment also.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Alexius.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Welcome.
All right. It's nice. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you too.
Okay.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.